introduction to the urinary system. Urinary system is essentially the kidney. The kidney is what carries out all the 5 functions of the urinary system. So we talk about, the functions of the urinary system is really the 5 functions of the kidney. Really, pretty much. So one of those functions is to remove all of the metabolic waste from the blood. Okay, in the process of making the urine, remove all the metabolic waste from the blood. Kidney also, urinary system also helps to maintain constant blood pH. It helps maintain constant blood pressure, constant blood volume, and a constant blood osmolality. And this is the concentration of electrolytes to water. It's like a ratio of electrolytes and water. So those are the 5 functions of the urinary system. The kidney. The kidney. So you have the capsule that is around this kidney is referred to as the stroma. And then you have anything to do with the kidney is renal. Okay, anything that has anything to do with the kidney. So this layer on the outside, that's going to be the renal cortex. Remember, you have the cerebral cortex. It's always kind of like that outer layer. So you have the renal cortex. You have renal medulla. Medulla is on the inside. So all of this area right here on the inner part is the renal medulla. And then you have the renal pelvis. The renal pelvis kind of collecting all this urine in here in the renal pelvis. And then the urine will flow down this ureter. The ureter or the ureter takes the urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. So this is another model of the kidney. This is going to be the capsule, which is also known as the stroma. We have the renal cortex, which is the outer layer. Renal medulla, which is the inner layer. This is going to be renal pelvis. And then this right here is the ureter. So the entire organ there is a kidney. You have the capsule or the stroma, renal cortex, renal medulla, renal pelvis, and the ureter right here. That's also 12 inches long, and it goes from the kidney down to the urinary bladder. Now on that same purple plastic model, we have the kidney with the ureters, 12 inches long, taking this urine to the urinary bladder, and then it'll exit through the urethra. The urethra. What was the name of this gland sitting on top of the kidney? What was the name of that gland? That is the adrenal gland or suprarenal gland. Okay, so you have the kidney, which this part of the kidney right here is going to be like the renal pelvis, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. Kidney. These models, I call them the urinary apparatus. My urinary apparatus models. So you have the kidney, you have this gland sitting on top of the kidney. You have this, you can see renal cortex, renal medulla, renal pelvis, ureter, urinary bladder. You have the urinary bladder, and then the urethra. The urethra, which is that passageway to exit. What is the name of the gland that sits on top of the kidney? And name a hormone that comes from that gland. What is the name of this structure? Z. We learned that on the very first video, terminology. Okay, this is urinary system in a torso model. Kind of looks like, it's not Anna, it looks like Anna, but it's not. This is a kidney, adrenal gland, suprarenal gland, ureter, urinary bladder. Now I want to point out, because Tommy has it super accurate here, this right kidney is further down than the left kidney is a little bit higher up. Why is that? It is because the liver is so big, it pushes this kidney down a little bit. So this right kidney is actually lower than the left kidney because of the liver. And here we have adrenal gland sitting on top of the kidney, adrenal gland sitting on top. This is the spleen over here. These are going to be the ureters or the ureters. And this collecting area right here, that's going to be the renal pelvis. Okay, so this is the kidney. And when we look at a section of the kidney up close, we still have the capsule here. We have the renal cortex. This layer is the renal cortex, and all of this is the renal medulla. And one thing I want you to know is that the renal medulla is where it's super, super salty. Down here in the renal medulla, it's super salty, and that's how we can concentrate the urine, because it's so salty. It's going, once you open up these aquaporins, these water pores, water will go into that salty medulla to retain water in order to concentrate the urine. So this is one of the mechanisms in which the kidney plays an important role in maintaining constant blood volume and blood osmolality, is retaining water or excreting water in the urine. So that medulla, the renal medulla, is super salty. Now, when we look at this section of the kidney, we see this tubular, this tubey structure here, and one of them is called a nephron. And what really makes up the kidney is 1 million nephrons. So each kidney is made up of 1 million nephrons, and the nephrons are the functional units of the kidney. The nephrons are what do all those 5 functions of the kidney. It's really the nephrons that are doing this. The nephrons are the ones that are making the urine. Nephrons are the functional units of the kidney. Okay, now whenever I am using this webcam as a document camera, I want you guys to draw it. Draw it with me. Get out a piece of paper, get out your pens, and draw it with me, because I'm telling you, the action of drawing it is going to help you learn it. So what are we drawing? We're drawing a nephron. Super important, okay? First, we're going to start with the capillary bed. This is the capillary bed. It is called the glomerulus. Glomerulus. I don't feel like I'm spelling it right. Glomerulus. It's right. Okay, glomerulus. Okay, this structure that is surrounding the glomerulus, which is the glomerulus capillary bed, This structure surrounding glomerulus is a Bowman's capsule. Okay. Then we have this first twisty tube, which is the proximal convoluted tubule. Convoluted means twisty. Okay, and then there's another twisty tube. That's going to be the distal convoluted tubule. Convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. This loop is the loop of Henle. And this part of the loop coming down is the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, and this part that's coming up is the no. This is the D. It's coming down, so it's the descending limb, and this one's coming up, so it's the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. Sorry about that. Okay, then distal convoluted tubule. And then we have the collecting duct. Now, these structures here, the loop of Henle and the collecting duct, these are found in the renal medulla. They're in that salty. This is the creating a salty environment, and then this is where you retain the water. The water gets retained and you concentrate the urine. So this is in the renal medulla, which is very salty. Okay, up here then, this is going to be the parts of the nephron are in the renal cortex. So these structures are in the renal cortex. Now, proximal means it's closer, and distal it's further away. So this is the proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule. Now, the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule are like together. They're like this. So together it is called the renal corpuscle, because the two are together. Okay, now let me sort of like show you now. Okay, so make sure you draw all of this and have that in your notes. So right here we have the capillary bed, which is the glomerulus. And what happens here, everything that's in the blood, good stuff and bad stuff, comes out of the glomerulus and moves into the Bowman's capsule. So everything good and bad comes out of the glomerulus and goes into Bowman's capsule. Then we have this first little twisty tube, which is going to be the proximal convoluted tubule, and it's here in the proximal convoluted tubule where you're going to help reabsorb some of that good stuff. So some good and bad comes out of the blood into Bowman's capsule. Good like glucose, good like calcium ions, all this good stuff is gonna be put like in the urine, and you don't want to lose it in the urine. So the proximal convoluted tubule will reabsorb some of that good stuff and put it back into the blood. Then it's gonna come down here in this loop, the loop of Henle. So we have the descending limb and the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. And it's in here where you're pumping the sodium and creating this salty environment to create this osmotic pressure gradient in order to retain water, like to concentrate the urine. Then we have the last twisty tube, which is the distal convoluted tubule. Again, it's going to reabsorb any good nutrients that you do not want to lose in the urine, but it can also take from the blood bad stuff and put it, bad stuff that's still in the blood, and put it into the urine. So big toxins that didn't come out at the glomerulus, well, maybe they can be secreted into this distal convoluted tubule to be removed with the urine. So then we have the collecting duct, which is going to collect that urine. So what was the name of this entire structure, this whole thing right here? That is the nephron. How many nephrons make up one kidney? And then the other question is, what is the functional unit of the kidney? The nephron. Okay, the nephron is the functional unit of the kidney. We have 1 million nephrons making up each kidney. So we have the nephron. And this number 1, that is the glomerulus plus the Bowman's capsule, because they're kind of like, they're like together. You have the glomerulus and you have Bowman's capsule, and so they're like together. So what is the name of that? That is the renal corpuscle. And what was the name of the capillary bed? You need to know glomerulus. Okay, you're going to hear this glomerulus tons of times. Glomerulus, 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 over and over and over again. Everything glomerulus. And around the glomerulus, you have the Bowman's capsule. Then you have this first twisty little tube. What was the name of the first twisty little tube? Proximal convoluted tubule. And then what is the name of this structure? The loop of Henle. This part that's coming down is going to be the descending limb. This part coming up, ascending limb of the loop of Henle. Then we have another twisty tubule here. That is going to be the distal convoluted tubule, and then finally it's going to be collected in the collecting duct. Right, and this was the capsule or stroma. This area is the renal cortex. It has all those parts of the nephron, while the loop of Henle and the collecting duct are in this salty renal medulla, and that's where you retain the water when you want to concentrate the urine. Now then there's this. What is the name of this capillary bed? This is going to be the glomerulus, and the structure around the capillary bed is Bowman's capsule. So that's where everything good and bad comes out and into this space, this capsular space. And then it's going to go into here, which is the proximal convoluted tubule. Glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule. Now this plus this, those together is called renal corpuscle. Okay, and the last 4 slides are just for you to review that anatomy. So you're going to pause the video, see if you can answer those 5. If you can't, well then you need to study it, watch the video again and study it until you can. This is another, this part is the bottom part down here. This part is this bottom part of this. So it's like, name this capillary bed, And then this structure around the capillary bed, this light pink, that's going to be Bowman's capsule. And then it says, what's this twisty tube number 37? This first twisty tube. And then the green structure 38, 39, and the whole green structure is 40. And then, so 39 comes up here, and then you have a hot pink twisted tubule, and then the yellow passageway. So we draw it like that, but this is more like how it really is, all twisted up. And what's this whole thing? What is this whole thing? That is going to be nephron. Okay, so that's the urinary system.